everybody. Welcome to the Ball Card Show, Season 5, Episode 11. We're rolling into the summer. I can't believe it's possible.
It's crazy. I just got back from a little trip for my wedding anniversary and got off the plane, and it was 70-some degrees in Ohio, and it was like 43 when we left.
And we already had fake spring, so you know that
it might be real spring now.
It might actually be spring.
It also might snow next week, so who knows?
It's quite possible here in Ohio. I want to jump right in to a little hobby news.
Yep.
This is a news light episode.
There's not a lot happening right now in the hobby, and we don't want to try to sensationalize little stuff just to fill time. So
yeah, I mean, we could,
but that just makes us like everybody else.
We could talk about that. What's that product? Tops 3?
No, we don't have to talk about that.
There's nothing to say about it.
No,
we've already seen Mercury.
Yeah, it's grift.
Yeah,
it's grift.
We could talk about, what else could we talk about? We could talk about.
You nailed it right there.
That's it. There's nothing to talk about. The only thing that we thought was worth mentioning is Fanatics has announced that, drum roll please, we are introducing more scarcity on purpose into the market. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah.
It's a little negative, but I mean, it kind of gets the point across.
It gets the tone there, yeah.
So the good news is with wrestling, I'm going to have to let you take it from here. I got nothing to say. I'm not a fan.
Neither one of us are big wrestling fans. And even like UFC, which I think we both enjoy watching, we don't get into the card side of it really at all.
No.
However, much like the last couple years with baseball, Topps has announced that they are doing a buyback program on WWE Topps Chrome 2025. Now, while I don't know anything about wrestling or wrestling cards, I don't know who either of the people I'm getting ready to tell you about are. I couldn't pick them out of a lineup. At the end of the day, if you can find the base ones of these in a value box at a show you're walking around, you ask somebody if they have WWE cards, and you find the base ones and you pay $1 a piece for them, you can turn them in at your LCS for $20. So that's a win. 2025 only. Topps Chrome Wrestling, WWE Wrestling. Jey Uso, and I believe it's Jey and USO.
Yeah.
Jey Uso,
yep.
And then Tiffany Stratton. Those are the two that are going to be buybacks. If there are other buybacks that we are unaware of, somebody drop that in the comments. I just happen to know these two because I've got a couple of buddies who enjoy wrestling, and they were like, "Hey, look out for these cards." I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll do that." Yeah.
I'm going to make sure I understand this correctly.
Yes.
So the buyback program with Real Sports goes to an AL and NL MVP, most valuable player in a sport.
Correct.
That's real.
Yes.
Okay.
I know where
with
you're going
no
with
guaranteed outcomes, right?
Right.
But wrestling has a buyback program for something that is scripted.
Yes.
With an outcome.
Correct.
That doesn't make any sense at all.
No, but it's the reality. So, yeah,
Jey
Uso and Tiffany Stratton, free money if you can find them.
Anyway, now, having said that, I'll look for it.
Absolutely.
I'll look for it in the non-sport.
I will always look for free money.
It's great for eBay,
yeah.
you know. But, or just take your LCS if you're into open and wax.
Or if you're, some LCSs will let you go towards singles with that too, so. They've
also announced, Fanatics, that they are going to be doing WrestleMania. Is it a debut? I think it's a debut patch. Is that right? It's from their shorts.
Oh, yeah.
It's like their version of doing the, was the All-Star Game patches that they're going to do in addition for baseball? So,
and the award winners. You nailed it a couple weeks ago when we talked about this. Topps Fanatics saw the huge amount of success they had with the MLB debut patches.
Yeah.
There's a 1 trillion% chance that they will figure out some way to do the same thing in every single product that they release. I'm telling you right now, when they do Topps Chrome Star Wars, there will be like a character debut patch for them. I guarantee it's coming. Yeah. So, yeah, be ready for it. And I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, cool.
The only positive I've got to say about all this is my wife and I have been trying to watch Ricky Stenicki. You know,
it's very random, but yes, I know.
John Cena's in it.
Yeah.
And it's like hilariously bad.
Yeah.
Now, it's so good that my wife has fallen asleep twice and trying to watch it. We still have 20 minutes left of Ricky Stenicki.
Anytime you say I've been trying to watch a movie, you can tell exactly what you're getting into.
Yeah.
It's not like UHF, where it's a one seat, you're in it, and you are there, and it's awesome.
My wife would fall asleep in 5 minutes with UHF. And
she has bad taste.
Refuse to watch
My
it
wife
anymore.
also, but they have bad taste. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. So Fanatics is doing that with the WWE. Now, hey, do we sound like old grumpy dudes that are out of touch with pop culture because wrestling has once again swept the nation as a pop cultural phenomena, and now like everybody that's anybody is a part of WWE? Yes.
Pat McAfee.
But ask us if we care.
Not even a little bit.
Because the answer is
nope.
Don't care.
Nope.
Don't care. No.
Every once in a while, I've got a buddy that's like, you should try to watch this, and I'll sit down with him, and I'll try, much like you guys try to watch Ricky Stenicki. Yeah. And about 5 minutes in, I'm like, did you not just see him not slap that guy?
Yeah.
He just did not slap that guy, but the dude
yeah, but you
rocked
need
back.
the backstory here.
I don't care. Yeah. I don't need redneck soap operas. It's not my thing.
They're popular.
I guess.
There's a market for it. There's a big market for it.
Yep.
I quickly learn it's a real quick way to learn who collects sports cards that played sports and who collects sports cards that watch sports.
Oh, that's funny. It's also very true. It's funny.
Venture to guess that it's like over 65% accurate. 2/3
at least
of active wrestling collectors of sports cards did not letter through high school in sports. And if you try to hit me with track and field and you were on the team, if your school was small, that doesn't count. Doesn't count.
Oh, we're going hard on this right now.
Well, it's just coming from one, 40-year-old guy that collects cardboard pictures of people to another. Stop. Just stop with this.
It's an intervention that's happening here on the Ball Card Show.
I told you it wasn't a lot of news. I'm sure that'll gain a little bit of traction for people. You're missing the market. Don't you understand? Blah, blah, blah. Guess what?
Maybe.
We ain't ripping Disney cards either.
No, there's a big market for that, too.
Who wants a Minnie Mouse autograph? Help me Hold on.
Here we go.
Hold me. How does any of this stuff autograph mean anything in Disney? Who's signing it?
I don't know.
How do they do it with a Sharpie with 3 fingers?
It has a huge market. I'm not going to lie, though. I did buy a Disney card on Whatnot the other day.
No.
It went super cheap, and I know that I have a guy that'll buy it. So I bought it. Shout out Riley.
Can anyone explain the autographs to me?
It's somebody is signing it. It's just like when you go to the park and you take your kids.
You thought Luca wasn't signing autographs? Guess what, kids? Mickey didn't sign that.
When we take the kids to Disney and they run up to the giant, like, creepy people in the furry costumes, they get autographs.
I remember having an autograph book when I went, but who's signing the cards?
Probably similar people. Like, they rotate through the staff. Or somebody at Fanatics is doing it.
Named Jim that works in a back office for Fanatics.
Yeah, probably.
And they sent him back there and said, hey, you want to be famous? You can't tell anybody. But
Figure out how to write Buzz Lightyear.
You have the best penmanship on our team.
Or Woody.
Jeez.
But that stuff sells like crazy. I saw an all Disney
We don't
show.
go after Pokemon because I don't want to be canceled today. I leave it alone.
I saw an all Disney show on Whatnot a couple weeks ago. I swear to you, in 3 hours, that dude sold 60 grand worth of Disney cards.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about Disney adults.
That'd be a different podcast. Now we're just getting into being grumpy old men at that point.
Yeah, I think so. All right, let's move along to the value box.
It's going to be a longer value box segment this week, wrapping up this first value box series.
Yep. So we've talked about if we were starting over or starting tomorrow and we needed to have a card business, what will we do? Sell what you have, buy what you need, negotiate the deal is what we've talked through in the last few weeks. And then we're talking about scaling the business today. So what does that mean? Let's just break this down to brass tacks. Somebody has started a business. They've listened to our advice. They've done everything they can, just feeding off of our every word. There's a little bit of momentum. They're selling through inventory. How do I grow this thing? What does scaling really mean?
Right. Well, I think the first question you have to ask yourself is this, and it's really important. Do you even want to scale it? If All you're trying to do is allow yourself to enjoy the hobby by selling some of your stuff and buying a little bit here and there just to fund the hobby for yourself. A lot of this isn't going to apply to you. However, if you want this to turn into an actual business with trackable metrics and reportable profit and loss, then everything we're going to talk about here is going to be important. So scaling the business just means going, how do I go from selling 100 cards a month to selling 1,000 cards a month? What steps do I need to take to not only get to that point, but how do I make sure that I am able to maintain that level of sales? What are the key metrics that I need to look at? What do my margins need to be? What is my average sell-through rate so I know how much more I need to buy? Do I want to continue to add to my war chest or pull all my profits every week when I sell? These are the types of questions that you have to ask as you're starting to scale any business, whether it's sports cards or whatever that is.
So we're going to answer with a question.
Okay.
I tried to make that feel like a riddle.
Oh, it didn't.
So I'm in rare form today.
You are. It's okay, though.
Let's keep rolling. There's a billion questions that you need to be asking if you're considering scaling the business. I think they're really important questions to ask. There are a lot of different ways to scale a business. Gary and I do our business differently, and if you ask 10 other people in the card space, they have something that they do that's a little bit unique or a combination of things if they've been around for any length of time and if they have scaled their business to grow, for the revenue to grow. Some of the questions that I wrote down, and I'd love to hear some that you have, would be, and I'm just kind of like, hey, what would I be thinking through if I was starting it over? What level of confidence do I have in my inventory's market? So if you said, I want to sell cards that are over $50 and less than 500 on average, blah, 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 and you whittle that down and you look through your showcases right now, do you have a depth of knowledge over the players that you have, the scarcity of the cards? If it's ultra modern players, do you know how they're playing right now? Are they injured right now? Are they projected to be starting and they haven't yet? Have they underperformed? How familiar are you with your inventory that you currently have? What platforms are going to be best? So if I want to scale this and sell this in a few places, where should I sell it? Everyone that you ask is going to have a different answer for you. There's a lot of advice out there. You should only sell here. Oh, don't sell there. That place sucks. Oh, if you sell here, you're going to get burned. If you listen to everybody, you should be selling everywhere and also not selling anywhere, right?
Yeah, and in addition to that kind of thought process, even at a more root basis that goes back to what confidence do I have with the market for my inventory, if you can't answer that basic question, if you don't have the basic knowledge of the things that Jason was talking about, like if you're trying to sell baseball prospects, but you can't tell me off the top of your head 10 of the top 20 guys on all the MLB prospect lists, you shouldn't be trying to sell Major League Baseball prospect cards. Like that shouldn't be where you live.
That shouldn't be where you scale.
Yeah, that shouldn't be where you scale. You need to figure out what you know best and work within that. And then again, scaling doesn't mean going from selling $50 cards to selling $10,000 cards necessarily. Could it mean that? Yeah. It may mean
it doesn't mean that for 99.9% of
It may
dealers.
mean going from selling 10 $50 cards a month to selling 100 $50 cards a month. How do you do that? There's a few things that you need to take into consideration as you ask that question. One, how much time do you have? If you say to yourself, okay, I want to get from point A to point B. Let's say that's selling 10 cards to selling 100 cards at $50 a piece. So I want to go from doing $500 in business a month to doing $5,000 of business a month. Not as big of a jump as it sounds like, I promise. But you have to ask yourself, how much time do I spend right now selling 10 $50 cards a month? If that is 2 hours a month, then you can kind of exponentially do the math there. It's not a 1-to-1 ratio, but you're not going to go from spending 2 hours a month to spending 4 hours a month and 10xing what you're selling. You're probably going to need to go from 2 hours a month to 15 to 16 hours a month. And eventually you can maybe whittle that down a little bit, but ask yourself how much time you have. If you can't commit to 4 to 5 hours a week of putting in the work to do that, then you're not going to be able to scale. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, and in all of these, and we'd like to hear in the comments too as you're seeing this, and because everybody's going to have pushback on that. Is it possible to do that and to have a multiplier? Yeah, but you better have a bankroll. You better be able to buy some 5-figure cards. You better know who has them that wants to give them to you at 85%.
But all
it's
that
just
is
a lot of factors.
Yeah.
That now, is it possible to get to that point? I think so, but it's not easy money. Scaling a business is really hard work. So,
Yes.
like, back to that first question. I think a lot of people, they're like, feel overwhelmed because they're like, I really like cards and I'm into, certain players, but I don't know that market. Well, that doesn't mean you can't learn it. Like,
Right.
if I decided tomorrow that so for me, baseball prospecting, I'll have a handful of guys a year at max that if it walks up to the table, or if it's a well-established prospect that's like been on the verge of popping off in the last couple of years, yeah, I'm going to be interested in that. But I don't want to take the time to watch a lot of people get to 2A and then fizzle out. That's not exciting to me.
Right.
And that's a time suck if you're not already into it. If I wanted to learn that, though, there's a ton of resources. There's paid subscriptions. There's just MLB Pipeline, where if you stay on top of that, when it's refreshed, you can kind of see how they're doing. YouTube, watch a swing. Does it suck? Like, there's ways to get into
no
that.
other what you're looking at, though, if you're going to try to actually judge it based on that. There's a lot of people who don't know a good swing from a bad swing.
Sure.
Just watching
But
it.
whatever you can do to research
Yeah.
it, like, you're going to have to make a commitment. And I'd argue that no matter where you are, if you're scaling it, you're underestimating the need to do research.
Absolutely. It's the same thing if you're comping something. I didn't find a direct comp. Well, that's not the end of the search. You didn't find that specific card that sold. That doesn't mean there's not comps. You just
Right.
have to dig a little bit more. But yeah, knowing what you have in your inventory, and do you think you have the right inventory to sell? There's a really easy way to kind of figure that out. Jason talked about it last week or a couple weeks ago. Sell-through rate is something you can figure out just by going to eBay, just by going to any platform that reports their sales. eBay is just the easiest one. Look at a card that you have. You might say this card's worth $500, but if it's got 30 listings and it has sold twice in the last 3 months, well, it might be worth $500, but the chances of you selling it quickly, pretty low.
Yeah, that's one of the questions you'll have to ask, too, when you consider your business model. With a car, we've talked about scarcity and been through a lot of that over the last couple of weeks. If you haven't seen it, go back and catch up. But am I willing to hold out a few more months to get closer to 100%? Or am I better off taking 15 to 20% margin on this sale quickly in the next 2 to 3 weeks and doing it again, hopefully again and again, and it will pay for itself? For some people, it really does make more sense to just hold on. Just wait a little bit. That's a card that I'm confident in the player. Their value's not dropped off. There are some comps. It looks like it sells about once every 6 months. And I'm going to sit and wait on that buyer to come through. And they probably will. There's a chance they won't. But you always have the option of lowering the price. There's one thing you tell me when I'm comping, and I'm like, man, here's what I'm thinking on this. So, like, this is a great point I bring up. Gary and I wrestle through this on a regular basis. We hope to find cards that are more rare and scarce. What does that mean? There's not going to be 50 comps on them.
Right.
And whenever we do, we will bug you. And we almost like say, play the devil's advocate here is kind of how it works. I'll send a picture of a card. Hey, here's what I've got. This is out of a weird set. It's from this year. It is of 10. And I'm thinking I'm going to sticker here. Here's my rationale for stickering this at this price. A similar player of this year, of this print run. Like, you kind of build a case, and then I'll throw it at him and say, what do you think? And he'll say, sounds good. Sounds aggressive. Or I don't think you're even close to being high enough on the price point. To which I always ask, why?
Right.
It's like I have to learn that. So I think taking the time to do the work now, there's lower volatility ways of doing this, and I've shared it many times. Like, if you go into high volume, low end, and you're willing to take 10 hours to go through 5 boxes of stuff to find out, hey, in this box, I think this stuff's mostly like under $5, but I want to learn if I'm wrong. You just grind through it. You put on a TV show that you like, and you've got Card Ladder or whatever out, and you're just working through a box and taking your sweet time to learn the market. If you're not interested in the market, that's going to be harder. So I think there's a caveat with that as well. I am not super interested in $3 to $5 cards, but boy, do I love feeling smart when I pull a $20 card out of a quarter box.
Yeah.
that chase, that little treasure hunt thing for me, that's rewarding. And so I think that piece of it, and the numbers are fantastic when you look at your margin on stuff and what you're going to make. But that is enough for me to stay interested in the low end market. If I wasn't ever finding anything that would pop off, if I wasn't getting great margins, if it didn't make sense, math wise, I probably wouldn't be doing that at all. So like diving in and learning what your market is and what you want to sell is going to be really important to growing it. And you're going to find that dealers tend to niche down. The established dealers that shows you see, influencers, go look at their showcases and you're going to start to notice some common threads. Now, will they have other stuff that's walked up? It's a little out there. Yeah, but you're going to find out what they have a taste for, what they like present because they've done the work as well.
Yeah, for sure.
Where are you at with this?
What platforms are best for my inventory?
The platforms that are best. So there's a ton of ways to do this. The old-fashioned card show, Facebook Marketplace, eBay, whatnot. If you have higher end stuff, there are big auction houses. I don't think most of you are going to be scaling a business that way, but it's certainly possible. Instagram, super active. TikTok is growing for the marketplace, and because you have the live function on there where you can run transactions. Flea markets, garage sales. There are people that just set up at a flea market every week and run their car business like that. They've got a couple other things going on. A couple other hustles, and they're able to kind of have everything out every week there, and they have a following.
What's your personality? I think that's a big part of this.
Yeah.
What do you enjoy? For the last almost 2 years, 80% of, if not more, of Jason's business has been eBay. I personally would put my head in a door jamb and slam the door repeatedly into it if that's what I was doing. I like the interaction. Jason would look at me like I was an alien when I would say, I love being at a show on a Saturday for 10 hours.
Well, it's like he doesn't count it as work sometimes.
No.
That's where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
It's like those 20 hours of driving and setting up and selling like that's 20 hours.
Yeah.
It's still 20 hours.
And for me, at this point in my life, my kids are grown
Sure.
and out.
Yep.
It's not a big deal.
Yep.
For you, it's a different ballgame.
Yep.
Those are all the things you have to ask. What's your personality? What's your time availability? For me, I much, much, much more enjoy selling at shows than anywhere else. I would say at a minimum, 95% of the business I transact is face-to-face, person-to-person. Probably 5% of my sales come online. And then that 5% is split between Facebook and Instagram. It's not on the auction house platforms. Now, I do a lot of my buying online, but I do a decent amount of that face-to-face as well. It's just something that I really enjoy and that I'm pretty good at. So figure out what your personality is, and that goes back to, again, though, what are the time things? And at the end of this, we're going to kind of go through, like, here's some concrete steps that you can take to scale, but these are all questions that you should be asking.
Yeah.
But as far as number of platforms,
you don't have to pick one.
No.
You don't have to do all of them. I wouldn't recommend trying to do all of them. And it's going to change. Like, that's the other thing, too. I was in a season of life where it was necessary to stay home and work. I didn't have the flexibility. So for me, I had to find a way to do this. And what I found was going to be hard was keeping the same price point per sale of inventory that I was running at shows on eBay and having revolving sales as quickly as I would have with shows. If that sounds a little confusing, here's what I mean. It is much easier for me to find, repurchase, and upload thousands of low-end cards on a regular basis than it was to try to take card show inventory and move it through eBay on the same pace. It sold a little slower for me. eBay has a different buyer base than other platforms. Just the way it is. That's why unique, oddball, weird stuff tends to sell a little better on eBay. There are athletes that never really perform that great at the pro level, but they had such a following at the college level that they perform well on eBay. But I'm not going to be selling that player at a local show because nobody's looking for them. So there's trade-offs within that. Gary's model is changing right now. It's evolving. We're not going to stop doing shows. You're only increasing that. But as we're opening up an LCS, like, we have got to embrace that. We have a community that likes hanging out with us, and we want to share.
Which doesn't make sense to us, but
we want to scale with you. And so that's why we're introducing Whatnot. There's going to be more of that. Was that something we were interested in a year ago? No. If you go back and listen, we probably sound like hypocrites because we don't have a ton of nice things to say about it. But for what it is, it seems like the best platform to offer.
And again,
for that kind of selling.
Really important thing to really embrace. You can live in a world of should, or you can live in a world of reality. There are lots of things that I think Whatnot should do that would make the platform better. Guess what? I'm not a shareholder in Whatnot.
Right.
I don't run the show.
Yeah.
I have to live within the world that they make. Just like we've had people talk in the last 2 weeks in our comments on every platform. Well, PSA should this, or this should be this. No, I'm sorry. Should means absolutely nothing. Live in the world that we live in. And so when it comes to the platforms that you choose to transact business on, everybody knows about eBay. I think everybody knows about social media platforms. A few other platforms that you can buy and sell on that you may not be aware of. We talked about this one a couple weeks ago is MySlabs. They allow for graded, raw, wax. They have trading options. There's also a platform called Veriswap. Now, Veriswap, I've heard really good things about. I've also heard some horror stories about. So do a little bit of research before you decide that that's a rabbit hole you want to jump down, especially on higher end stuff. Not saying anything bad. I've just heard good and bad. And the bad that I've heard has been really bad. Yeah. The good that I've heard has been really good. So take that for what it's worth. Collex has a platform. Their app is trash. Don't use it to value your cards, but they do have a marketplace, and you can get some really good deals.
Card Dealer Pro directly uploads to Collex if you want to. If you're using that, so it's an option. Too.
They're really bad as far as valuing cards and scanning stuff, but they do have a marketplace that's pretty good. Another one that is really good if you have a large quantity of stuff that you don't care about how long it takes to sell. You just don't want to do any of the work on it. And that's COMC. It's COMC.com. It's check out my cards is what that stands for. You can send them a pallet full of 4-row boxes, and they will do all the work. Now, are you going to get charged for that? You're damn right you are.
30 cents a card, right?
Yeah, but they will do all the work, and eventually it will all sell. The nice thing with that is they also have a marketplace you can buy on. So as stuff sells, you can just have that put into your account there and buy stuff from there as well. So
I feel like if you're somebody that's like looking at scaling a business and you're watching this or listening to this, we're giving you we're just backing up a dump truck of information.
Fire hose.
But just to kind of synthesize this to a point, you're going to have a lot of options on how to scale. We're not saying there's one right way or one wrong way. We would encourage you to look into all these different ways that you can move cards, and you're going to find a fit that makes sense for you. Don't try to do all of them at once. Start somewhere.
Yes.
If you want to test one of these platforms, take 10 cards. I do not recommend cross-listing. There are people very okay with that. I have found that everyone I know that does online card sales at scale at some point has double sold an item and run into customer service issues with that. It works really well until you're at a show and somebody buys 20 cards and you forgot one of them and then it sells 2 days later. That's a bad review you're not going to get around, and that's a really tough look for your company. Some people are okay with that. That was one of the questions I had was can I deliver customer service? If you don't like interacting with the customer after a purchase or people having an opinion about the transaction or having the risk of somebody trying to scam you even if they can't get away with it, eBay's not for you. There's a lot of platforms like that. Whatnot has some hustles going on now too where people are trying to take advantage of people. So you're going to have to decide, am I okay every week being pissed off for 30 minutes because somebody's freaking out over a $2 card that has been bouncing around a post office 10 minutes away from them for the last 2 weeks and expects me to fly in there, go behind the desk, find this
Pony Express.
So there's just all those factors that you're going to have to weigh in. Every platform doesn't work for everybody, but all these platforms work for somebody. There are kids out there that are, teenagers that are crushing it on Instagram. They post stories of, hey, here's 5 cards I'm selling today. Message me here. And they're moving a lot of cards. You and I suck at Instagram.
Yes, it's not something we are good at or know anything about.
So it's a challenge for us. There are people that literally just flip collections. What do I mean by that? They get on Facebook Marketplace, they buy a collection for $500. Now they're checking it every hour, they're checking it every 30 minutes, and then they turn around, put that exact collection up and sell it for $750. They don't even open the box.
Right.
So it's to them, if they know that there's $1,500 worth of stuff there and they make a quick $250, that's where they like to move it. So you have a lot of options. You're going to have to decide what makes sense to grow the business. At some point, for most people, they're going to have to branch out and diversify a little bit. Facebook has at times been very profitable for us.
Yeah.
There was a time where you were doing a lot of sales on there. My introduction to low-end liquid market was when I was running dollar sales.
Massive
of like
dollar sales.
3,000 cards. You want to talk about
work?
Brain-numbing work? Taking photos in a 9 grid over 3,000 it takes a long time. Going through, sorting the stacks for a day afterwards. And then 10 to 20% of the people that claim cards are not going to pay you. But that 80% helped me move through a lot of lower-end stuff. So there's just a lot of different ways to take it on. I think it's going to be really important to start asking yourself, what do I want to do to scale it? A super essential question starting is, what has been working for me? Can you think of, I'm just springing this on you, but can you think of a time when this went from like, I'm paying for my hobby to a little bit of a hustle, and you realized, and I'm guessing it was probably at a show. It may have been on Facebook Marketplace because you were, or not Marketplace, but in a group. You're pretty active there. But do you remember like a moment where you're like, hey, this particular approach seems to be working?
I don't know about a specific moment, but there was a period of time right when the market started to correct pretty hard about 2 years ago, when I realized that the way that I buy works really, really well if I stick to it. And that second half of it is the important part. Mm-hmm. Like whatever it is that you find that works for you, don't vary from it. Yeah. Stick to what that is and rock and roll. And that was the moment where I really started leaning into, I'm going to stick to my margins, and I'm going to buy things that are really hard to find. Yeah. That people may be just ready to get off of because they can't find anybody to buy it. I'm okay holding it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, looking back, I can't see where the market's dipping out. A lot of people are exiting the hobby, right? Yeah. Especially on the dealer side. And you were still holding your own, and you were still having decent shows even when traffic was dying down. Yeah. And it was like, I've had that card for 6 months. It's been in there for 6 months. So it's not new inventory. No. But you bought right. Yeah. And at the time when everything was going crazy, people were buying at 90% and the market would pop and they're selling at 120. Like it was happening.
That lasted for about a year.
Yeah. It can't sustain that. No market can sustain that. It just doesn't work like that long term. But I think for me, it was when I realized that customer service was actually an edge on eBay. Yeah. Because I hadn't committed to fully just doing cards. I had like a few things going at once. Yeah. And when I realized how people responded and you could create a repeat buyer that was happy with their experience, and it was an edge that I had that I would respond to a message same day. Buyers were shocked on eBay. Dude, I sent you a message and you replied. Thank you. Yeah. I was like, does that give me? Yes, it did. Hey, my card's lost. Here's a refund. I don't care. Here's your $3 back. I'm sorry this was lost in the mail. Here's a coupon to come back. Like, yeah, I was doing something that a lot of people weren't doing. The other thing I was doing was working really, 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 really hard, getting thousands of cards listed and spending the time on that. So there is a way to scale. There is a moment, like if you're thinking of scaling, something's working for you and you want to find out what you can grow this into more. And we're saying, look at a platform, consider the market that you're in, consider the price point you want to be at. We've talked about this a little bit with negotiation, buying, selling what you have and all that. I think what's really important is to consider what is repeatable. What can you do again in a month? What can you do again in 3 months? Yep. Can you keep buying this type of stuff? Even if you have to work for it, are you able to find it? And then what is the actual profit?
Really important question.
This is where a lot of the scaling fails.
Yes. Well, it's where a lot of businesses in general fail.
Sure.
How many times have you talked to somebody who works in a business and the only thing they see is cost of goods and what they sold it for? And they think, well, if this only cost $10 and we sold it for $100, that's $90 in profit. No, it is not.
Yeah.
And you have to understand that if you want to turn this into a business. If you buy something that is $200 and you pay $200 for it and you sell it for $400, you did not make $200. How long did you hold it? How do you determine what the dollar value of time is for you? For me, it's about 2% a month. Like I will start at about 3 months, I've hit 6 to 8% loss of my time. Now I'm going to flush this card. I'm ready to move off of it, unless it's something crazy unique. Figure out what that number is. What did it cost you to be on eBay? Depending on the size of your store, you could be spending $150, $200 a month just in subscription fees and listing fees. You can't just pretend those dollars don't exist. If you're setting up at shows, what did the gas cost you? What did tires on your vehicle cost you? What did the table cost you?
That doesn't sound like a lot when you're setting up once every 3 months, but when you scale this and it's 3 to 4 times a month, multi-day shows, those expenses really add up quickly.
For example, we're going to be in Pittsburgh, Washington, PA in a couple of weeks for the Pittsburgh 700, one of the biggest shows in the Midwest
It's a
every
3-day.
year.
Yeah.
It's an awesome show. Between table fees, gas, food, and lodging.
Which we went cheap on.
Lodging. Jason and I each are going to be in that show for a minimum of $700 to $800 by the time it's all said and done. At a minimum. Yeah. It may be closer to $1,000 if we decide we want to go get a nice steak or two. Probably not, because we're usually exhausted at that show because it's a really long days.
What does DoorDash have to offer while I fall asleep?
The point being, when we get to that show and we finish, the first X dollars that are above what our inventory cost was is gone. That's not profit. Like, you have to think about it that way, which is why it's so important to understand what your margins need to be for it to make sense.
Now, here's where it gets tricky for you. It doesn't get tricky on the card that's like $200 and it sold for $4. But 99% of the time, if 400 is on the ticket, you're coming under 400 on the sale.
Yeah.
Unless you have an existing relationship with somebody paying whatever you want. There's some of those, but you sure don't have them every show, and you sure can't count on them to scale your business. That's really important. It's good to have one heavy buyer, but if they're gone, will your business sustain? I think that's an important question to ask.
Yep.
The other thing that you have to consider is, especially like the Washington PA show is a perfect example. You don't get to split your time between buying mode and selling mode.
No, you're
so
nonstop.
As this stuff rolls in and something walks to the table and I have to pay up, but it's really nice, and I think I'll get to there, and I was able to comp it, but I did it in 30 seconds, and I found 2 comps, but I know there's a weird comp on this card too that people are going to be beating me up on. Like, you have to consider, did you overbuy at the show as you were selling? I still have this X amount of dollars to cover my expenses for this. Like, last weekend is a really good example. I did 2 local shows. I guess it was 2 weekends ago. I did not put any cash into the bank account for the business.
At the end of the 2 shows.
At the end of the 2 shows. Set up at 2 shows, bought and sold. It was several thousands of dollars that moved around. But because of what walked up to the table where I was buying right, all I did was upgrade my inventory. Guess what? That doesn't pay a single bill for me.
Right now.
But it is scaling.
Yes.
So I just think that's something to consider, because a lot of people throw out these numbers. What'd you do at the show? That means less to me now than, like, I can be impressed because I know, like, where you typically are with the show. So if I hear a number way higher, I'm like, oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That was a busy show. But that number is less impressive to me than the margin. Like,
correct.
There are people I know that they will move 15 to 20K in a one-day show, but they put $300 cash in their pocket. That's their model. $300 cash, and in their mind it's, I made $300 today to hang out at a card show.
Yeah.
I spent 20, 30 grand, to get that extra percentage. But for some, that is a model that works. They have many connections that will buy at that percentage.
It's a model that scares the hell out of me.
Not one that I like to roll with, or I have shows that maybe I only did, let's say I did 1,500 at a long show with a lot of traffic, and I'm bummed out because for me that would be like a lighter day. But it was mostly value box, and I'm in at like 30 to 40%. Well, now I just put a bunch of cash in my pocket. Yeah. I could put that in the bank. I could buy a nicer inventory with it. So your numbers are really, it's easy to flex a big number in this industry or in this business, but that doesn't mean that that's what you're putting in the bank.
No, and to your example, we know several people in that boat, but I have several friends who will do consistently 10, 11, 12 grand at a one-day show. I usually, and I try to be pretty transparent. For me, the average one-day show that's a good size show, if it's a small local show, this isn't the number, but a show with 150 plus tables, most of the time on a one-day show, I'm going to do somewhere between 4 and 6 grand, roughly. I will make as much profit on that 4 to 6 as my friends do that do 9 to 12, because I just stick to what I know my margins need to be. Now they're buying stuff that is stuff that they can sell very easily at 95%. I don't. That stuff scares me, especially in the current environment for that stuff. But to Jason's point, know what your margins need to be and stick to it when you buy, and then track that. Again, none of this matters if you can't like look at it on a piece of paper and go, okay, I can't measure it if I don't track it.
Yeah. There are tools out there. I'm not naturally,
Yeah, that's the right word.
naturally organized in any kind of way with this type of stuff, but it matters so much. eBay's easy for me because as long as I keep my inventory organized, they give me reports, they give me spreadsheets, whatever I need. But when you start doing shows, which is for most people larger cash transactions, like tracking, all right, I bought this at 70%. They bought so much that I sold it at 89% is what it came out to, or 87, which really only made me X. And then I turned around and bought 2K from this lot that's actually valued at 4. So I'm on, like, the numbers are going to matter. A lot of people find themselves out of inventory with cash that they just put in the bank, and they're like, 3 months down the road, they don't have enough inventory and they've spent their cash. So you really need to think through what the actual profit is.
Right.
All right. We've really dragged this segment out, but I do think let's just do like a quick
recap.
One sentence on.
Oh, okay.
Just running through the different options people have.
Okay.
So selling on Facebook. So we'll just call this section like where. Facebook, find a good group.
Or groups.
And sell within groups. Marketplace is not great for either of us.
No. And when it comes to selling and buying on Facebook, something really important. You will have much more success if you buy and sell in the same groups. If you show that you're willing to spend money, people are going to be willing to spend money with you.
That's a good point.
Next.
Shows.
That's my bread and butter.
So just find one and set up.
Just take the action.
Even if you just decide, I'm going to spend $30 to go sit at a show and watch how this works, and I'm going to take a bunch of dollar boxes. You don't, and there's people that's their whole model. Just take something to a show, see what happens, see what walks up. People are going to ask you if you're buying. You might find a great deal there, but you got to put yourself out there. People are so scared to do this.
Yeah.
There are people that are not scared that will just hang out there and make $50 for the day, pay their table, and then they're like, oh, I get a free burger on the way home. Right. Basically, like it's just
they got to hang out and do something they enjoy.
Go try it. Don't jump right into a massive show if you're not ready for that.
Nope.
Don't pay too much. Find your $20 to $50 table show. Go set up. I think you'll find that it's a lot of fun. Instagram and TikTok. If you're familiar with the platform and you spend even a little bit, especially Instagram, if you spend time with a lot of commenting in the space on other posts, getting your follower base up. There's a lot there. TikTok with live. You probably don't have a whole lot to add to that. It exists. People younger than us are having a lot of success with it. People our age are too. We just don't care. Don't care. eBay.
We talk about this all the time. Everybody knows what eBay is and how it works. Make sure you understand the fee structure before you list, so you're not one of those people that whines about how much they got charged when they told you up front how much you were going to get charged.
Yeah, most important question I would have for you on eBay is, do you have the time to scale it? So yesterday on Easter, we're recording this early in the week. I knew that we were recording today, and I had my weekend orders. And so as soon as we got home from Easter service, I had like 2.5 hours to knock out all my shipping before all the family came over. And it's like, you have to do it. If you miss one day of orders, you're screwed. So can you actually spend the time it takes to fulfill all the orders? Whatnot. Spend a little time finding out what works for people before you start.
Yep. And understand that if you aren't going to put the effort into promoting the show, utilizing your other social platforms to promote it, it's still going to be a long grind to get to a strong follower base, but it's a really long grind if you don't do it right. Go scroll through Whatnot and look at the shows that have 20 plus people in the room. They all have a lot of things in common. Copy those things.
Yep. ship the next day with whatnot. I think that's a huge one. People get bummed out because they put a lot of big cards out on their first show. They don't get the margins they want, and then they're staring at a pile of their collection that they thought was going to go for 2 or 3 more than that, and they're like, I got to ship this right away.
Yeah.
You're just mourning it, staring at it, wondering what happened. All right.
That's business.
Facebook Marketplace, if you're moving bulk, that's the only time I've used that. If I go through a big collection and I have like a bunch of 5 rows of like quarter stuff, I'll probably just say, hey, who wants it? Come get it for 100, 150
I've
bucks.
got a bulk of that right now. I need to just send out.
And we mentioned flea market too. But scaling, I feel like we overloaded with information there. But
we did, but we can recap it in 5 pretty easy points. Okay?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Get it.
First one, decide how much time you have and commit to it. And don't commit to it for a week or 2 and then bail on it. This is going to take months, if not years, to build properly. If you can commit 5 hours a week, 1 hour a day during the week, and you don't want to do anything on the weekends, whatever that is, commit to that time, set that time aside, and say, hey, for 1 hour each day this week, I'm going to do nothing but work on my card business, whether that's sourcing, listing, whatever it is, and stick to it.
Yep.
Second, you got to commit dollars. Decide what your bankroll is that you're going to start with and say, hey, this is the business's money. This is something that Jason's been really good about over the last 6-8 months. He said, the business has to pay for itself. I'm not going to keep self-funding it. So decide what those dollars are, commit to it. If you have $1,000 and you spend all $1,000 on inventory, you can't keep buying more stuff till you sell some stuff. So commit to that. You have to discipline your dollars. Okay. Discipline your dollars. That means decide what your margins are, stick to them, and stay that way.
Don't break your own rules.
Yeah, don't break your own rules. Discipline your dollars. Fourth thing, and this is an important one, otherwise you'll get really burnt out really fast. Take profits sometimes and reward yourself sometimes. If that means you want to rip a hobby box of something really nice, take some of your profits and, hey, I'm going to reward myself. The nice thing about that is if you use some of that stuff for inventory, what you spend on the hobby box now becomes a tax write-off. So, hey, have that.
Cost of goods.
Last one, and we've said this several times through this, as you're going through these steps, just keep repeating what works. If something works once, try it again. If it works a second time, try it a third time. By the 5th time, if it's working, hey, that's something you want to write down. I'm going to do this all the time. If it works once and it doesn't work the second time, don't stop. Do it a third time. But after the 3rd or 4th time, if it didn't work anymore, you just got lucky the one time. Go on to the next thing.
Yep.
That's it.
Great. Very concise. Up next, we have our segment of low-end liquid. And this one is not going to surprise a lot of you when you see the product. You're like, oh, well, maybe it will. You'd be like, oh, really? And the answer is, yeah, really. So this segment, Low End Liquid, if you don't know, I run a high-volume low-end store on eBay. It's got over 44,000 cards right now. In the last 11 months, I've sold 11,000. It's been a big month. So 1,000 cards already this month. 11,000 orders. So that could be, I don't know how many cards because multi-quantities can get up there. But so I've had a little taste of what tends to move in the low-end market, what you can find dirt cheap that can sell for margin quickly. Small margins, fast. Velocity is your friend on this. And for this segment, I want to bring up the Allen and Ginter celebrity cards. I know this sounds ridiculous, but think about it. You have a lot of celebrities. Some of them are nostalgic, throwback, musical artists that don't have other products out there. Maybe they have a Pop Century Auto or something like that. But what I mean by that is they don't have products that are accessible for under $5 that has a card of them. This taps into the pop culture market in the same way that the BMX segment did too. So what did I call that you laughed at? Factor stacking. But these are everywhere. So like this is an example. Is this year's? I believe it is. 24, Allen and Ginter. This is his name? Zach Guilford, more commonly known as Matthew Saracen from Friday Night Lights. Jason Aldean, there's going to be cultural reach there. I'll leave that alone because I don't want to say anything else about him. Daddy Yankee, like I've sold probably 5 or 6 of that Tim Robinson card from this year.
His autos from that set are insane.
Well, sure.
$250, $300.
Yeah. But these are quite literally all over dime boxes at the card shops, at shows.
What do those sell for on average each?
Well, I don't know. It's going to be between $2 to $3. $2 to $3.
So let's say $250 and you paid on average a dime a piece. On that $250 after eBay fees, what do you net?
About $1.
Yeah. So
And that's if they buy one card. Now,
that's a 900% margin.
If somebody buys just 2 cards, I'm splitting that shipping cost. If somebody buys 3, the margins get even better. 4 is kind of the sweet spot on that. And then, so because of that, there are people that come through and they're like, oh, I want all the celebrity cards from the set this year. And they'll buy 10 or 15 or 20 of these at once. But because they're just random celebrities and somewhat culturally relevant, some of these other ones are weird too, like not super cheap, but like there's Illuminati cards. There was a whole subset they did that was like urban legends and
didn't they do the dinosaur x-rays this year?
Yes, they have conspiracy theory cards. Some of them like $20-$30 they sell same day.
Yeah. Some
of them are really weird cards, historical figures, but this week's low end liquid segment is just the Allen and Ginter celebrity cards. ESPN commentators and broadcasters sell really quick.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird. Female celebrities, as people may have crushes on them or appreciate what they've done in their career, they do well. There's weird stuff in here too. I'm sure you all saw it if you open it, but the Westminster Dogs, there's people that buy it.
Doesn't make sense.
I don't have all the answers
whatever.
for you, but it does move quickly. So low and liquid, Topps Allen and Ginter celebrity cards. Don't pay more than $0.25 for these, whatever you do. But if you get them on the cheap, which usually you get them in bulk.
But when you talk about scaling, that's the kind of stuff that can scale. It's why you started the eBay thing to start with, because margin, a dollar doesn't seem like much profit until you realize that you only paid a dime for it. And if you can do that 1,000 times, that's a really good return on investment.
Yeah. Some of them are weird, and they're going to sell for $5 to $10.
Yeah.
But yeah. This low end stuff, $2 to $3. They'll move quickly for you.
Is that a product? Now, this is a really interesting question for me because I don't know the answer. Jason probably does. Is that a product that because of that you can rip a hobby box and list all of that stuff and probably come pretty close to breaking even eventually?
Yep.
At worst case?
So it's a product that before I had the eBay store, I did not understand why we were still making this. Because like half of these cards don't make any sense in a sports product. Right? Like, give it to the wrestlers, sure. But it didn't make sense to me until I started selling it. And it's a product where I haven't lost yet on it. I may have like $20 worth of the box still out there in the store that hasn't sold yet, but anything weird sells fast. The rip cards sell after you rip them.
Yeah.
Like, it's a hard product to completely lose on because the low-end market is weird and it's different. Yeah. But it's accessible. And it is scarce. There's not a ton of celebrity cards out there, and it's on Topps. So,
and a lot of people don't realize that you can sell that stuff. So if you do and you're listing it, you have an advantage.
For those of you saying, thanks for ruining it, I assure you this.
It's
there are
not.
very few people as weird as me willing to list thousands of these.
That's the thing.
So, like, that's the advantage is you're willing to take the time to do that for $1. If you have a Rico 8170 and Card Dealer Pro, you could move 1,000 of these listed within 2 hours. Like, you could have them on eBay, listed, organized, in inventory, ready to go. So, low and liquid. Let's move to the Lookout. I like this one. Deep track.
Yeah, I did. When we were talking about what we were doing this week, I said, we're going deep cut on this one. If you are a college baseball fan, you may know this name. Now, I'll be the first to say I'm not a huge college baseball fan, mostly because metal bats I don't get excited about stuff that happens there because a lot of it's not real. However, this guy, his name's Tim Elko, and you may be like, what the hell is this guy talking about? Even if you follow prospecting, you may not have any idea who Tim Elko is. Tim Elko is Chicago White Sox first base prospect. He's not what you would call a typical high-end, like sought-after product. He's a right-handed hitting first baseman, right? Now, Tim Elko became a little bit famous, and he's a cult hero in Mississippi because in 2021, on a torn ACL, he led the Mississippi Bulldogs to the College World Series championship, hitting 7 home runs during that run. And so he gained some kind of cult celebrity status there. He was drafted in 2022 by the White Sox in the 10th round, and I believe he got either a $30,000 or $35,000 signing bonus. It wasn't much.
Big money.
Yeah. Now, since then, all Tim Elko has done is hit. That's all he's done. He's just hit. His career in the minor leagues, he is a .291 career hitter with an .829 OPS for his career. On base percentage, solid. It's not amazing. Slugs, he hits the ball really hard. The swing is nothing that you go, oh my gosh, but it's also not something that you go, oh, that doesn't work.
Right.
He's just a guy who hits a little bit of like Ty France type of a feel. Just a big right-handed hitting first baseman. Now, so far in 2025, dude is raking. He's hitting 361 with a 443 on base percentage, and he's slugging 607. It's a 1050 OPS. The White Sox are not a good baseball team, and they need offensive pop.
It's perfect timing.
He's going to get the call really soon. Him and Colson Montgomery both are going to get the call really soon for the White Sox. He only has autos, and they're only paper. 2023 Bowman, he has paper autos. He has no base cards. He has no base chrome first. He literally only has paper sticker autos. They're still very, very, very accessible. Very cheap. I'm going to say if you go try to find his base stuff, you'll probably get it for less than $10. I'd say $3 to $5. Is it going to be a $200 card? Absolutely not. Is it a card that could see $20 or $25 pretty quickly if he comes up and hits a couple of home runs early? Yep. It sure is. He's 26 years old. We're not talking about somebody who's going to be a long-term, big boom, let's invest in this guy because he's going to be a perennial all-star type of guy. That's not the case. It is the case of a guy who you can get really cheap that very few people know about and that you could see a very nice little return on if you do it right. Tim Elko, Chicago White Sox, 2023 Bowman. Go check it out.
One last thing before we wrap up today. And it's weird doing this way, but we're in the entrance of transparency.
Yeah.
I'm about to thank you for the Whatnot show that we've not done yet.
That's true.
But by the time you watch this, we will have done it.
Yes.
No, this isn't Inception. This is real life.
That was a movie.
I'd like to also announce that we'd like to thank you for the overwhelming success and or abysmal failure that it was. And to let you know, we'll be back next Thursday night.
Yes.
7 p.m. If you didn't get a chance to catch the show, download the Whatnot app. Look for The Ball Card Show, all one word.
At The Ball Card Show.
At The Ball Card Show. And make sure that you give it a follow, bookmark it, and all that. We will be back with way more for you on Thursday. So thank you and or shame on you. And we'll see you on Thursday. This has been The Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye.